All right, welcome everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order. This is a hearing of the Committee of Adjustment for the Town of Grimsby. I'm going to first introduce the committee members that will be deciding the applications this evening. We have, we'll just ask you to wave briefly. We have Adam Mottershead, Adam, Herb Nobes, Herb, Danielle Beck, Danielle, Dylan Bailey, hi Dylan, and myself, Kevin Antonitis, as chair. Staff present this evening, we have Nancy Simon, our Secretary Treasurer. Nancy, Walter Basic, Assistant Director of Planning. Walter, there he is. And Michaela Bray, Planner. I don't think we've met before, Michaela. Welcome. Welcome, everybody. I'm just going to do a brief note introduction about live streaming. So members of the public are advised that our meetings are live streamed by the Town of Grimsby. Individuals and media may be audibly and or visually recorded during this meeting. As a reminder, all electronic devices are to be in a silent mode during our committee meeting. For the purpose of the Zoom meeting, applicants will be placed in the waiting room until your application is heard. The purpose of the application and relative correspondence will be heard, following which the applicant will be given opportunity to address the application. Any person concerned with the application will then be given an opportunity to speak. At the conclusion of the discussion, the committee will render a decision and advise of any applicable conditions. Copies of the decisions will be mailed to the applicant or agent and to any other person who files a written request through the Secretary Treasurer, Nancy. Any person, corporation, or public body has the right to appeal either the decision itself or the conditions of consent to the local planning appeal tribunal within 20 days of the mailing of the decision for the consent and within 20 days of making a decision for variances. So everyone present will be given an opportunity to comment on the applications being heard. Please address your comments and questions through the chair. Agencies commenting on applications may request that certain conditions be imposed. Voicing objections to these conditions will not adversely affect the committee's decision. All members of the committee have viewed the properties on the agenda tonight and are familiar with the lands that are subject to the applications. Do any members of the committee have a pecuniary interest with respect to the applications that are before us this evening? Anyone? No, and I have none. Let's see. Okay, so are there any requests for withdrawal or adjournment, Nancy? Nothing? Nothing? Okay. Then tonight we have 4 applications before us. We've got, I believe, 1 delegation in addition to the actual owner or agent representing each property. So at this point, we'll adjourn everybody into the waiting room, and then we'll call you forward as your application is being heard. So we'll see you in a few minutes. So the first item then on the agenda is the minutes. Do I have a mover or a seconder? Resolve that the minutes of the meeting held May 18th, 2021 be approved as circulated. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Danielle and Adam? Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye or raise their hand. Thank you. Opposed, if any?
Can you put the presentation down? I can't see all the screen. Thank you.
Just give me 2 seconds here. All right, the first application then is a minor variance A1421 304 Main Street East. Nancy or Michaela?
Yes, this is an application by Mr. Eric Husby, 304 Main Street East.
Sorry, Kevin, can you mute, please?
Yeah, I'm
and Nancy, can you restart?
Hold on. Just a minute. There we go.
Sorry. So this is an application made by Mr. Eric Husby at 304 Main Street East. The application is the replacement of a portion of a fence. The variance is to increase the height of the fence to 2.44 meters, whereas 2 meters is the maximum permitted. And is in terms of correspondence for this application, Region of Niagara has stated that since the proposed fence is along the side property line and does not extend into the front yard, they have no urban design guidelines or concerns. And other than that, there was no further correspondence.
Okay, is the owner or applicant here that wish to comment at all on this or provide further information before we open it up to questions?
I believe Mr. Husby is here with us.
Mr. Husby, did you wish to add anything to what was presented? It seems fairly straightforward.
Yeah, thanks for hearing my application. So really the purpose was to try to provide some additional privacy. If you've come by the property recently, you'll notice that the adjoining property on this diagram that's labeled 308 is now an empty field. There's a lot of construction planned over the next couple of years with the development going on. And part of this application really is just to provide some additional privacy for myself and my family with regard to the activity next door. The reason I'm going a little bit higher than the standard fence height is to provide additional privacy, given that in the section that adjoins my property, there's now potentially 4 to 5 houses that may be looking into the backyard. And given that, we don't know how high some of these decks might become in the future, this provides additional privacy. This is really just to try to help with the quality of life that we've been used to for over 20 years here in Grimsby. Very much love the community and have been contributing to all the businesses and the facilities here locally. And so we'd like to continue to remain residents of Grimsby. And this just helps provide and maintain the quality of life that we've been used to.
Thank you for those comments. I'm going.
So, Michaela, if we can go through the slides. So this first slide shows where the property is on Main Street East. And this shows a diagram of where the fence will be starting approximately and going backwards. Next slide. Mr. Husby has submitted this diagram of what the fence will look like. And I think that is it. Oh, sorry. And there's this picture that we took the other day where you can see the house in relation to where the development will be. Kayla, can you take the presentation down, please?
Thank you for that. Okay, are there any other questions or any questions from the committee members first? No, pretty straightforward. Herb, I'm just going to give me a second.
Mr. Chair, through you to Walter, in the plan of subdivision for the properties next door, is there a fence required along that property line?
The very first lot will have a noise attenuating fence that's required to meet the requirements of Ministry of Environment standards for rear yards. That fence will be partially along the common property line with Mr. Husby's property.
So it is just for the first lot off of Main Street?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the members first? No, I don't see anyone in the audience then. Being no further questions, do I have a mover or seconder? I'll read the motion. Resolve that submission A1421 for variance to replace a portion of the fence along the east property line to a height of 2.44 meters, whereas 2 meters is the maximum permitted. Mover or seconder on this? Adam and Dylan? Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye or raise their hands. Opposed, if any, was carried. So it was approved, Mr. Husby, and subject to the appeal period, which you've heard is 20 days. Other than that, it's good to go. Thank you for attending.
Yeah, thank you for your time, everyone.
Have
a good evening.
You too. Okay, we'll wait a second here while we call the next one. So the next application we have this evening is A1521, 50 Robinson Street South. Nancy, would you like to read the application and any correspondence that we've received?
Yes, this is an application by Michael and Erin McQueen of 50 Robinson Street South. The application is for an existing cabana. It's to permit a rear yard setback for an accessory structure of 0.43 meters, whereas 1.3 meters is required, and to permit a side yard setback of 0.39 meters, whereas 1.2 meters is required. In terms of correspondence, Region of Niagara had no comments. We have several letters from nearby neighbors. Number 54 Robinson indicated that they support the cabana. Number 52 next door to the structure feel it has no impact on their property and does not affect the drainage. Number 57 is in support of the application. Michaela, if you can begin the slides, please. Next slide. So this is an aerial photograph of the property. You'll notice that it's an L-shaped property. Next slide. This one shows the variance, side yard variance and the rear yard variance. Next slide. These are pictures that were taken by staff. This shows the existing cabana structure. You can see the setback from the rear side yard here, and this is a better picture here. The interior side yard is displayed in this photograph here. Next slide. This shows the neighboring shot from the neighboring property, the interior side yard and the drainage. And this slide here shows the garage that the cabana extends from. Next slide. This is a photograph supplied by the applicant demonstrating that he can maintain the rear side yard. And I believe that is it. Michaela, if you can take the slides down, please.
Thank you for that. The owners are here, I believe. Did you wish to explain or elaborate a little bit on the application and the need for the request?
Yeah, first and foremost, we want to apologize for having to do this a little bit backwards. We were not aware we had to have a permit for this cabana. So we know we're doing things a bit backwards here. So thank you guys for all listening to the variance today. No, we saw the conclusion on the report and stating that the rear setback was the concern and maintaining, being able to maintain that rear part of the shed. So we just wanted to ensure that. So we went up there today and made sure we could get a ladder in there. And if we had to maintain that structure, that was no problem doing that. That was that picture that we showed today. Anything you want to say?
Okay, any questions from the committee members first? Dylan?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to ask when the structure was built.
The end of last summer, August, September, it was finished.
And sorry, and a second question, did you build it yourselves or did you have a contractor, et cetera, do that for you?
We kind of did it ourselves with the help of a friend that we trust.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, we also did, I don't know if I should mention, we have the gentleman that did the engineer drawings is on here as well.
I see Eric returned. Nancy, I don't know if that was on purpose or, and there's one that says Grimsby. Okay. Danielle, you had a question?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Based on that last picture that was provided, it appears that the rear wall is solid. And based on the survey and site plan that was provided, this is an L-shaped lot. Can you, to the homeowners, is there access still provided to that rear L-shaped portion so you can maintain it?
Oh, yes, definitely. Yeah.
So it's an open air structure that you can walk through to access that L-shaped
Yeah.
portion?
Yeah, and we can take parts of the fence down, no problem as well.
Okay, so it is partially fenced off then, or fully
yeah.
fenced off?
The fence line follows that garage. So that L part is kind of shut down at that point, but we can remove the fence to maintain the side, or you can fit in behind it. There is room to fit in behind there and maintain as well.
Okay. And my second question is fantastic that you have neighbors supporting this. It sounds like you have great neighborly relationships there. Is there a reason why the building is so big? Just looking at it in size in relation to the existing house, plus the garage, plus everything else that you have on the property. For what is the purpose of having it as large as it is?
We really just wanted usable space in our backyard. As you can see, we have a lot of mature trees where we live, which is beautiful. We can't grow grass very well back there with all of the roots and the lack of sun. And we really just wanted a space that we could utilize with our family. As we got older, we've lived on this street for 18 years. We love it. It's been a tough year. We wanted a space that we could really enjoy. We have you didn't see it in the pictures, but we've included a nice water feature back there just with fountains. So it really was just to take this opportunity during this time and enjoy our yard and use the space the best that we could.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any other questions from the members? Yeah, that was my question too, Danielle. I guess I was kind of concerned a little bit about when I saw the survey, how you get to that landlocked, is there a little landlocked piece, but you're saying you can get around the end of the cabana or the shed to get in there. I mean, I would think that the neighbor beside you wouldn't want that section overgrown and turning into a jungle. That would be option that you can get a lawnmower or something back there or whatever. I didn't see that part. I walked to the very back with you, but I didn't see that.
Our neighbor does maintain some of that as well, but we definitely can get back there, no problem.
Yeah. And I think normally I would have a concern too with the depth of that cabana against the rear lot line, against somebody else's rear lot line. But then as you showed me, I mean, it's a road behind there, so it's actually not really someone's backyard. So that's somewhat less of a concern too. So
yeah.
Any other questions? Sorry, Herb.
Yes, Mr. Chair, to Walter again. Speaking of the backyard, that roadway back there, is it a public road or is it a private road access in there? And if it's a public road, is there a minimum distance that has to be from the edge of the public road?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the road in behind is the common element portion of the condominium. There is a group of townhouses in behind. I don't know if you noticed when you visited the site, but there's a group of townhouses at the site which extend from the end of, I believe it's Rossmore. So it is a private road. It's not a public road. And in the eyes of our zoning bylaw, in this particular case, it's as if it's a yard. So it's not zone. There aren't any additional zoning setback requirements from that particular piece of property.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions from the committee members? If not, then do we have a mover and a seconder for the following motion? Resolved that submission A1521 for variance to permit a rear yard setback for an accessory structure of 0.43 meters, whereas 1.3 meters is required, and a variance to permit a side yard setback of 0.39 meters, where 1.2 meters is required. Mover and a seconder on that motion?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, point of order. Do we, just because the variances have changed, do we not need to have a motion to not defer it because the variances have changed since the original circulation? I think Nancy had sent out an email about that earlier.
Yeah, so the I had sent a response back too, and normally if there is increased variances or additional variances, or the infraction, I guess if you want to call it, is greater than circulated, we would say yes, it should be recirculated. But in this case, in fact, the variances were found to be not required, so it was less than the public notice. So it would be, I think, inappropriate to recirculate something that's less than what was sent around. In other words, the worst case went around and it ended up being a lot less than that because in fact the cabana was an open structure and didn't fall under the coverage ratio. So that one was completely removed.
I
So-
completely agree. I don't want to
Right.
recirculate. I
Right,
don't
right.
want to go out there with that
So,
process.
right.
Just for semantics, I didn't know if we needed to have that
Right.
motion. I just wanted to get that out of the way. So never
So-
mind then.
Yeah.
I would like to put a motion forward then to approve based on the fact that in my opinion, it does meet the 4 tests, that it's desirable, meets the OP and zoning bylaw or the intents, and that it is minor in nature.
Got you. And that's
Sorry,
a
my
move.
apologies. I
Yeah,
just
no,
wanted
no,
to
no
ask
problem. I
before.
should have clarified at the beginning. I totally forgot until I started reading it and saying, oh yeah, this one was amended to the,
Correct.
to remove that one.
So then it would just be for the last 2 variances then. It would just be for the rear yard and side yard. It would be removing the first 2 variances for lot coverages, correct?
Correct. And that's how my motion was read. Sorry, I didn't have the complete one as circulated. It was the lesser of the 2. So it was just for the side yard and rear yard.
Thank
No
you.
coverage
Just wanted
required.
to clarify that would be my motion. Then would just be for those 2 variances. Thank you. I apologize.
No
That would
problem.
be my motion. Sorry for the lengthy.
Yeah. So we have a mover and need a seconder. Herb? Any further discussion then? So as stated by Danielle, the variance as amended or amended from the original circulation was just for the rear yard and side yard setbacks because the coverage was not coming into play as it was an open structure. Now that may be a condition that members may feel would be a requirement of this, that they could add that it be maintained as an open structure with the exception of the back portion of the building, which is like a storage shed, but that's up to them. So far, the motion as read is just for the rear and side yard setbacks. So any further discussion on this motion then as presented? All those in favor say aye, or raise your hand, I guess. 1 opposed, if any, was carried. So it was approved with no conditions, subject to the 20-day appeal period before it becomes final and binding. So thank you for attending and clarification.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everybody.
Thanks. So the next application then we have this evening is A1621, 26 Baker Road, South. Nancy?
Yes. This is an application by David.
There he is.
Hi.
Welcome. I don't know if you heard the introductory. I was just calling the motion, or sorry, the next item on the agenda, which is 26 Baker Road South, application A1621. And Nancy's going to read the requested variance and the staff reports for us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So this is an application by David and Michelle Proctor at 26 Baker Road South. The variance is for a secondary suite located in a cellar with a side yard walkout. So to permit a secondary suite solely within a cellar, whereas bylaw 14-45 as amended states that a secondary suite is permitted as long as it is not located solely within a cellar. The variance is also to permit a right side yard walkout, whereas the exterior appearance of the dwelling is unaltered to accommodate the unit except for replacement basement windows and or changes to accommodate rear basement entries. And this is a side yard entry. In terms of correspondence for this, there were no comments from the region or from the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority. Next slide. So this shows an aerial view of the property. And if we can go back one, please. And the side yard entrance is right in this area here. Next slide. So this shows the driveway and again, the walkout area. Next slide. These are pictures that were taken by staff. So again, this gives you a better idea of where the walkout will be. This is a shot showing the neighboring house and the distance from this wall to the neighboring house. And the other slide shows the backyard with, you can see it's fenced in the backyard. Next slide.
That's all of them, Nancy.
Okay, thank you. Can you take down the slides? Thank you.
I oppose to this.
Joanne, is it Joanne?
Yes, it is.
Yes, you'll be given an opportunity later after we allow the owners to speak, and then the committee will have questions, and then we'll open it up to everybody else that would like to make comments, including
Wonderful.
yourself.
Thank you so very much. Thank you.
Thank you. If we could just ask you to go on mute in the meantime, Joanne. Thank you. David, is it? Would you like to speak to this application?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you for seeing us this evening. Again, instead of going through reading the exact wordage for the two variances, we're here to ask for permission for these minor variances where we think that, the request is minor in nature, and this house, more than any of the homes that we've worked on in almost the past 12 years, is actually perfectly suited to have this side entrance to the house. I know that the zoning bylaw, which is why we're asking for the variance, allows it in the rear yard, but that would disrupt the existing portion of the basement of the house. So having this walkout at the side would allow them to have this a secondary dwelling in the house and have it for some aging parents that they'd like to have at home. And I've read through the positive staff report. I really don't have any further questions, and open it up to any questions from the committee.
Thank you, David. First, I'll ask the members of the committees if they have any, of the committee, if they have any questions. Herb, and then Danielle.
Yes, Mr. Chair, through you. This is indicated that this is for an elderly family members that's going to be moving into this basement unit. Is there any provision made for elevator or assist or anything like this?
From what I've been told from the homeowners, that the aging parents are still fully independent, and no elevator would be required. This is not sort of like a care situation. It's just to have them closer to home.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Danielle, did you have a question?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, to David. Based on the plans that were provided, it appears that the side entrance is going to be kind of around the side of the building and in almost like a little nook of the side entrance there. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And then the stairs that would go down, it would kind of, how would the entry work? Would it loop to the side of the building and there would be kind of like a little below grade patio there?
It would be enough to have like an entry door so that you wouldn't be, if you're coming home with groceries, you wouldn't be, constrained by just having like a set of just walkout stairs. So there'd be enough to move at the bottom.
With a proper door swing and accessible. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Understood.
So
Thank you.
You'd be coming down to the bottom and there would be a railing around, just like a typical walkout situation. And then they would enter into the side.
Okay, thank you. And sorry, Mr. Chair, one more question. Just based on my site visit that was there was some landscaping along that side there. Assumingly there is going to be some type of paving and access along there, like a walkway or something like that. I'm assuming that it would all be done through it's all going to be graded and engineered and done appropriately to make sure that you're not flooding any neighbors. It's all going to be done appropriately.
Yeah,
I have worked with you, Mr. Crothers, before. I'm trusting that you're going to do things appropriately. So, yes, and those are my questions, Mr. Chair. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the committee? Before we open it up to Herb, and then Adam.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I noticed in my visit there were quite a few cars in the driveway already. And with another family moving in there, basically, is there any provisions for widening the existing driveway to accommodate additional parking? Or what is going to happen that way?
The intent is to keep the existing driveway as it is, not to widen it and to keep the exact drainage along the side. But so to answer the question, there would be no intent to widen it for extra cars. You know, the bylaw, we do have adequate parking for the suite and for the current homeowners. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I
yes.
may, if I
Yep.
just may one thing.
Yep.
I'm not sure if Nancy did mention in her opening comments, but we did have letters of support from 21 Baker, 24 Baker, and 28 Baker that were submitted as supplementary evidence as well.
Do we have those, Nancy?
I don't have them, no.
So we don't appear to have them. Did you get them, David, or did you?
Yes, we do. We do have them. I'm happy to send them.
Can you briefly
read them?
Can you read them, but also can you identify where they are in relation to the subject property? This is number 26. So
if we can pull up the map again, I would just
sure. Actually, the area would be helpful at this point. Michaela, could that be done for a moment? Thank you. David, can you identify them? And maybe the numbers are on them, so that helps.
Number 24, number 28, and number 21. I'm happy to, I will send those to Nancy.
Maybe send those through to Nancy, and then if you could read the highlights, I'm sure they're short.
Yeah. It just has the homeowner names. We, homeowner name, the owners of the property located at 21 Baker Road in Grimsby have reviewed the plans as submitted to the Committee of Adjustment and have no objects to the development. And it says that for the homeowner's name and their address signed.
Thank you. Adam, you had a question. I think you had your hand up. Or
yes, thanks, Mr. Chair. Through you to the applicant agent, how many windows are actually going to be accessible from the basement in the event of fire?
There is a window that's an egress window that's in the main area where the bedroom. It's more of like a sort of like a bachelor sort of one area apartment. There's one on the left side.
And do you know the approximate dimensions of that window?
Yes, I can. I can pull that up one moment.
I think we had additional drawings circulated with the basement floor plan as well, if I recall, identifying the windows, et cetera, and the general layout of that.
Yeah, it's 6 feet wide by 3 feet deep. So it allows some natural light. And that's code requirements because it's serving the bedroom and the kitchen area all at once. It's a very small unit.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Anybody else before we open it up to members of the public? No? Joanne, did you wish to speak? Could you identify your name and address for the record for us and outline your... Thank you.
Hi there. My name is Joanne Metherall. I have been here since 1995. I've known the actual owner, the existing owner that was there previously.
Sorry, Joanne, just to interrupt for a second, Joanne, could you give us your address as well?
Certainly, 45 Colonial Crescent, which backs on to 26 Baker Road.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So let me tell you something, okay? I was the previous owner here. There was Switzer Homes. There was only 3 homes in this whole neighborhood, all right? The previous owner, when my husband was alive, we built a fence, and the previous owner said he did not want to pay for part of this fence. So therefore, my husband built the fence 4 inches onto our property line, which is great. We did not ask any money of this previous owner. Now, since this new owner has now taken possession, this owner has now put their shed on top of my property, which I could actually stick my tongue out and lick it on my fence line. That's number one. Which is now apparently Town of Grimsby bylaws changed since I've lived here since 1966. Number two, I have 7 neighbors in the whole neighborhood that these new owners have stated that they're going to have this new built-in place for their in-laws. But meanwhile, they've said to every one of our neighbors, no, we're going to rent it out. You know what? We don't want any more neighbor rentals here. We don't want people abiding by our rules, okay? There is absolutely no right that they are building something here. They have objected to every one of our neighbors. They have lied to our neighbors, and they have said, we are only having an in-law suite. And meanwhile, they're always saying, no, we are telling our neighbors, no, we are having rental units. We don't want rental units. I'm paying $5,200 a month for freaking town taxes. I don't want rental units here. And that's all I can say. And that shed is on my property, and there's no bylaw apparently in Grimsby. I'm sorry. I have a real issue with this.
Okay, thanks, Joanne, for those comments. So with respect to the bylaw issue, maybe Walter or Nancy can comment about the shed, the conformity of the shed.
You know
and
what?
the fence.
Walter or Nancy's not doing anything for the town of Grimsby, okay?
Okay, well, we'll ask for
I
the
am
comments
opposing
first.
to these people building. I am opposing to these people having a rental unit. It's not an in-law suite. They're renting it out, and I oppose to it.
Okay, thanks for that. Walter, did you wish to comment?
If the shed is encroaching, my presumption is that, you know, the owners that purchased the property may have assumed that the fence was on the lot line. They may not have known. So the shed appears to be of something that could potentially be moved. So that can be taken care of if it's an issue, if it's encroaching or if it's on Mrs. Metherall's property. So the shed can be moved. So we can deal with that.
Okay.
Now,
because you know what, Walter, I've already put the town of Grimsby. I've already put the town of Grimsby with a legal lawyer in writing that if my fence catches fire because they're putting gasoline in their shed that is on my property, I am now holding the town of Grimsby responsible, not the legal owners. Do I make myself clear to all of you?
Joanne, we've heard your comments. Just let Walter finish, and then we'll let you wrap up with some additional comments if you'd like. So we have the shed issue first that Walter is starting to comment on. Go ahead, Walter.
right. So if the shed in fact is encroaching, then that can be taken care of by moving the shed. Secondly, the issue with regard to whether it's rental or whether it's for elderly parents is not relevant to this application. Secondary suites are permitted in every residential zone. So how they're used is not relevant to the application.
I appreciate that, Walter. However, Walter, I was told by the town of Grimsby that it has got nothing to do with the town of Grimsby. Now it's a civil matter. So now I have to fork out money for an attorney to have this shed moved over, which is supposed to be by law 2 meters from a fence line. I think you should really reconsider your proposition to me.
Okay, Joanne, you're going to have to stop
Chair.
and yeah.
If I may comment on that one issue, we don't have any surveyors on staff, so we can't go to the property and verify the location of the property line. We would need-
However, I
we
was
would need
told,
evidence.
I was told
Okay.
Need evidence. We
Yeah.
need evidence in order for us to make an actionable request on the neighboring property owner, Ms. Netherall's neighbor. We would need evidence that there actually is an infraction
Right.
or an encroachment.
Okay. So, but the issue here this evening is the variance for the two requests for the variance. The use is permitted, whether it's rented or owner occupied. The use is permitted. The variance is for the location of the entrance, I believe, and being solely within the cellar or basement, right? Those are the two issues at hand, not the location of the shed. I don't think, and the shed was below the required size of requiring a permit in any event. So it sounds like that issue is separate between the two property owners, if I get that correct.
The I don't recall. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think there still may be a requirement to stay on your property. So if there's an encroachment, obviously that encroachment would have to be rectified. But again, we can't address it if we don't have any evidence. So we don't have surveyors on staff to confirm where the fence is relative to the lot line.
Through you, Mr. Chair,
Thank
that's
you.
also not a problem that's before us right now. So I would like to continue on with the variances that are at hand, and I would like to make a motion to approve, as I believe that it makes the four test. If there's any other comments that need to be made by the committee. Thank you.
So far, we have no other comments raised by committee members. And again, Joanne, that's something you can take up with the property owner regarding the location of the shed. So we have a mover and Joanne.
yeah, the
we're
Town of
dealing
Grimsby
with-
wants me to pay.
Just thanks. We're going to deal with the motion before us and the issues before us. So we've had a motion by Danielle. Do we have a seconder on this? And the motion then, if I can read it for you, Danielle, is resolve that submission A1621 for a variance to permit a secondary suite solely within the cellar, whereas bylaw 1445 as amended states that a secondary suite is permitted as long as it's not located solely within the cellar, and a variance to permit a right side yard walkout, whereas the exterior appearance of the dwelling is unaltered to accommodate the unit except for replacement basement windows and or changes to accommodate rear basement entry. So that's the matter before us. We have a mover. Do we have a seconder on this? Raise your hand. Dylan? Any further discussion on this application?
Sorry.
Adam, sorry, just 2 seconds here.
Or if Dylan wants to go ahead.
I'm sorry,
Go ahead,
ma'am, that's
go ahead.
completely inappropriate. We're a quasi-judicial committee. We're also members of the public, so flipping us off is not appropriate at this time.
Did you, okay, do you want to just block her then too?
Yeah.
Cut off, thank you.
Nancy, can we please remove her from the meeting? Thank you.
Yeah, done. Okay, so we're dealing with this application regarding the two variance requests. We have a mover and a seconder, but Adam had a question. I believe he had his hand up for further discussion. Adam?
Yes, I thought I recalled on the resolution sheet, I may be mistaken, that there was a condition about fire, meeting the fire code and something to that effect.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
I
believe
think-
there is a condition to meet the Ontario Building Code, which I think would be reviewed through the building permit process. Is that correct, Walter?
That would be redundant because that's a redundant condition. That's a standard condition in any event. So we don't normally put that condition on as a condition of the variance. Is that correct, Walter?
That's correct. Establishment of a secondary suite within this dwelling requires the issuance of a building permit or the owner to obtain a building permit. And all of the requirements of the building code and fire code would have to be met as a condition. The construction will be inspected by town staff to make sure it meets the requirements of the code.
And they wouldn't, we would be kind of caught in a catch-20 because they couldn't get zoning clearance if they couldn't get a building permit, and then they couldn't get a building permit if they couldn't get zoning clearance. So thank you for bringing that to my attention, Adam. Yes, I make the motion to approve it without that condition of requiring to meet the Ontario Building Code, as it would be met with the building permit submission. So if we can have the resolution amended as such, Mr. Chair. and yeah, the amended motion. I apologize. Thank you, Adam, for
Yeah,
mentioning
no
that.
problem. It was not read that way, and there was no condition attached to this, so it was just the standard approved with for the following reasons. That's we are assuming the variance is minor in nature, is appropriate for the development of subject lands, and meets the intent of the zoning bylaw and official plan. Any further discussion? Adam had his question answered, I believe. Anybody else? All those in favor say aye or raise your hand. Opposed, if any, was carried, and there is a 20-day appeal period before it becomes final and binding, and you may wish to advise your clients to have a discussion about the shed at some point, because I'm sure that will come up.
I just got to, yeah, I mean, I don't want to add, thank you very much, committee, Mr. Chairman. I have a feeling she's maybe mistaken, because I'm just looking at it in Google and the way that I don't know, we're not right in her backyard, but on the corner. So I have to talk to my clients, but obviously, yeah, they want to resolve that.
Yeah, I would maybe go out and have a look at it on site, David, and have a look and talk to the clients for sure. And maybe also talk to the neighbors that have been there as well too, that support the application, to see if you can get some more information.
Okay, yeah,
just to help you out.
Yeah, thank you. Okay.
Thank you for attending.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Okay, we'll invite the next ones in.
As well too, that support the application, to see if we can get some more information. Tom, just so you know, you're sideways.
Thank you for attending.
What I do. Sorry, guys.
Okay, we'll invite the next ones in.
There you go.
There we go. Okay.
Sorry, guys.
So could we just ask you to go on mute for a second? We'll just read the application and do a presentation. Tom, could we ask you to go on mute for a minute, if you don't mind?
Yeah, not a problem.
Thank you very much. Okay, so the next application this evening is A1721, 74 Terrace Drive in Grimsby. Nancy?
This is an application by Mr. and Mrs. Patsiatsis at 74 Terrace Drive. The application is for the construction of a sunroom to permit a rear yard setback of 6.63 meters, whereas 7.5 meters is required. In terms of correspondence, there was no comments on this application. Michaela, if you could bring up the slide, please. So this shows 74 Terrace Drive, an aerial view. The sunroom will be going in the rear yard here. Next slide. This shows the variance from the rear yard that's required. And it's actually from this corner. Next slide. This shows the side yard elevation and the proposed sunroom. Next slide. This is our existing pictures. If you look where these pots are, that's where the sunroom will end. This is a better shot here. This shows facing south. Next slide. So this shows facing south again, and just a better shot of, you can see they do have quite a bit of room in the side yards here. And this is from the pots to the rear yard, demonstrating the amenity space that's still there. Next slide.
That's all, Nancy.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Did the owners wish to add anything? Tom, we can ask you to go off mute if you'd like to add anything about the application or expand or elaborate, and then we'll open it up to questions from the committee.
Okay.
Well, we have our agent.
Okay, I don't see him in, is he in your Zoom? Oh, he's coming in just a second here. I don't believe he was in for the presentation, but I'm sure he's very familiar with it. John?
Yes.
Welcome. We're just opening it up to your presentation. If you'd like to add anything to the staff report that was just outlined briefly.
No, I think I'll concur with staff's report.
Okay, thank you. The owners, Tom, did you wish to add anything?
Not really. It's pretty basic. We're having a sunroom installed onto an existing patio. And
Okay,
it's pretty much going to take up the same area of the existing patio in terms of its length. And
okay,
its width will be, I think, an extra 2 feet wide to accommodate being able to sit there comfortably. And it's an enclosed sunroom.
okay, thank you. Members of the committee, do you have any questions for the applicant or their agent? Dylan?
Through you, Mr. Chair, just for my own clarification. So this will be an enclosed structure and will be used sort of year round or a 3/4 year? Like, I'm just trying to get an idea of what the structure will be when complete.
It's a 3-season sunroom.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any other question? I think, did Herb have his hand up? I didn't see. No? Anyone else? There being no further questions, do we have a motion, mover or seconder on the following motion? Resolve that submission A17 for variance, or A1721 for variance to permit a rear yard setback of 6.63 meters, whereas 7.5 meters is required, with the reason behind that decision being the variance is minor in nature, is appropriate for the development of subject lands, and that it meets the intent of the zoning bylaw and official plan. Mover and seconder on this? Herb and Adam? Any further discussion? All those in favor raise their hand. Opposed, if any, was carried. Thank you very much. Thank you for attending this evening.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
you very
Mr.
much.
Chairman and committee members.
Thank you very much.
Good evening.
Have a
Talk to you
good
later,
evening.
Tom.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, John.
Night, everybody.
To the committee.
Thanks, committee.
And there being no further business or applications before us, I would hereby call the meeting adjourned.
We have some questions.
Oh, we have some questions. Herb.
Mr.
Sure.
Chair,
Yep.
I think there was, we were going to comment on the proposed bylaw.
I think Nancy can speak to that. I asked her, and I believe we're having a special meeting just for that, to go through it, rather than try to tack it on to the end of another one. If that's okay.
And do you have a time frame for that?
No, I don't at the present time, but it will be sometime this month, and I'll be sending out notifications
Okay.
shortly.
Just to let you know, I won't be available next week at all.
Oh, okay. Good to know.
Yeah, I haven't had a
Thank you.
chance to review it yet, so that's good because I was not prepared for tonight.
Yeah, so probably closer to the end of the month. Would that work with everyone's schedules or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Where are you going, Herb?
Bon Echo Provincial Park.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah.
The first time this year they opened up the provincial park